Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My daughter is demanding I pay her Ivy League college tuition with my retirement savings. After that, am I the jerk for telling my stepkids it's not my fault their mom cheated on their dad? And after that, just sign this document that will dock you 11.5 hours. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to force anyone to pay for her college. Just wait till you hear the comments on this first story. They are infuriating. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My daughter is demanding I pay her Ivy League college tuition with my retirement savings. I'm 40, male, and my wife is 40, female. We have a 17-year-old daughter who is in the stage in life where she needs to think about college. My wife and I have agreed that we will pay for her 2 years in community college in our town and 2 years in university to finish her bachelor's. My daughter was on board with this until recently. She now wants to go all 4 years to an Ivy League school because that's what her friends are doing apparently. We have plans of retiring early, and an extra $50,000 or so is really going to push us back on that, so I'm not on board with that idea. Also, it's not like she has tons of money saved to get an apartment elsewhere, so odds are we would have to pay for that as well. It's a firm no for me, which has made my daughter incredibly upset with me. She's been guilting my wife, and now she feels bad for her and thinks we should do it. Apparently, she thinks she's going to miss out on a huge opportunity and will feel excluded from her friend group. Community college is also lame in my daughter's mind, which is an incredibly privileged thing to say in my opinion. Big financial decisions in our marriage require a yes from both of us, and it has always been this way. But now my wife is upset with me too. Now mother-in-law is also involved, and I'm the villain to everyone. We could technically afford it, but as I said before, it would really push back our plans in life, which I'm not okay with. And keep in mind, I'm not forbidding her from doing it, it just won't be on my wife and I's dime. I'm completely indifferent to paying the same amount and her getting loans to cover the rest, should she really want to go that badly. I feel crazy for even posting this, because I don't see how I could be the jerk. But since everyone is mad at me, it does make me wonder. You're the jerk if you can afford it. My parents agreed to cover half of wherever I decided to go and made me apply to both cheaper schools and the expensive art schools I wanted to go to, as well as financial aid and scholarships. Then we sat down and plotted out the expenses for each one I was accepted into so they could really explain the financial situation to me. This is her first major adult decision. I think it's best to help her make her own decision. Also, I don't really believe that she said, "I want to be with my friends." That sounds like your interpretation. You're the jerk for doubling down on community college. It is an okay choice, but not a great one. And in your own town? Where she would, I assume, continue to live with you? No, there is a wide gulf between slumming it at the local community college and going Ivy League. And to be honest, if your kid has the ability to be admitted, even if she doesn't go, then that is a lot of wasted potential. Not all courses transfer well, especially in majors that lead to a professional field. So why aren't you guys looking at normal universities? She can go off to college like a normal kid and it won't break the bank. Although, really, come on, man. You can't seriously think, "Oh, I'm gonna retire when I'm 52, even though you can't afford to send your kid to college." You're the jerk. First, if she's capable of getting into an Ivy, you should be supporting her a lot more fully. That's your kid. And Ivies are as good as they get in terms of opportunities after graduation. Second, she has to be accepted first. Third, take some time to educate yourself about the resources Ivies and other selective private schools offer to the kids they do accept. Some schools, like Stanford, provide free tuition for students from families making less than $150,000 a year. My kid's dad attended a highly selective small college in Oregon, and his parents only paid room and board for the first year. Almost everything else was covered by a combination of public and college endowment need-based aid, merit-based aid, and work study. Dude graduated with one loan for about $4,000. So get brave, do your homework, and if your kid has the potential to shine, help her do it. You're the jerk. You brought her into this world. You owe it to her to set her up for success, especially since you're secure enough for early retirement. You don't go from community college to Ivy. Why'd you even have a kid if you didn't want her to succeed? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or everyone else? Please let us know. You know why OP's going to retire early? Because he's financially literate. Am I the jerk for telling my stepkids it's not my fault their mom cheated on their dad? I have 4 kids. 2 are biological, and 2 are stepkids from my husband's first marriage. I consider all of them to be my kids, but for clarity, I have to differentiate. When my stepkids were 12 and 13, it came out that they were not biologically my husband's. It was dramatic, and it rocked the entire family. There was a minute where they were suspicious of me as well, but since I had insisted on testing my biological kids at birth due to issues from my own childhood, this was over before it began. My husband and I continued raising all 4 kids until he passed 2 years ago. His father just passed 6 months ago. The kids are 17, 16, 10, and 9. In his will, his father decided to only leave money to his biological grandkids. This money is to be held in a trust, so even I can't access it. It's not millions, but it's easily enough to pay for each grandkid to go to college and put a down payment on a house. My stepkids viewed him as their grandfather, so they are furious about this. But on a practical level, they need money for college, and now they don't have it. They've been blaming me and hounding me to fix this. I can't and won't. The will is airtight. The money is in trusts that I don't have legal access to. Just to try to do anything would involve, technically, suing the other kids just to harass my sister-in-law and the legal firm into trying to invalidate a will, which would be cruel and pointless. I agree that it's unfair, yes, but it's also not my fault. Their mother is the reason why they're not in the will, not me. I'm not going to pretend to know why she did it, and I don't have any personal feelings about her. She's always been a devoted mother to her kids, which is the only thing I cared about. The rest of her private life is her own business, and this is ultimately her responsibility. I told them to take it up with her, and now they're even angrier that I'm talking bad about their mother, and are blasting me to everyone that will hear that I've always played favorites. Not true. And that I'm not doing anything because I got what I always wanted. Doubly not true. I don't want to lose them or cause more pain over something that I had no part in. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This is a horrible, no-win situation for you and your stepkids. There's literally nothing you can do. The grandfather is definitely the jerk here. How incredibly hurtful. Nah, it's his money, and he might rightfully view his daughter-in-law as evil for betraying his son, and I believe that's where his decision was made. In a way, I don't blame him. That's his life's money. Why is the grandfather the jerk? Only jerk here is the other mother. Grandfather has no obligation. He's free to give the money to whoever he wants to. Why would he give it to someone who are not his family? That mother should have told everyone about it much earlier. Biological family should be worried about the children's future. He treated those kids as his own grandchildren for the first dozen years of their lives. Then, through no fault of their own, they're deprived of an inheritance. Sounds like their extended family might have started treating them differently. And now Grandpa went out of his way to deny them college money. That's low. Gramps was the jerk. The only reason the family is wrecked is because of the mother who cheated. Grandfather has no obligation to fund the kids' education. Their mother and biological father should be worried about it. What's the mother doing? Why is she letting her kids blame the OP? Can you take the older kids to 1, a lawyer who can explain to them clearly, and 2, family therapy so they can process their feelings? They aren't being that rational, but that's why they still need you to parent them, as thankless and hard as it is right now. They're so blind, they need someone to blame. You are not the jerk, given there's no legal avenue even if you wanted to be there. My dad's will was 5 pages, crystal clear. I shut down a greedy brother by reading 1 sentence. If any heir argues the terms of this will, they forfeit their share to the others. Shut him down right quick. Just sign this document that will dock you 11.5 hours. I'm a middle school teacher who speaks fluent Spanish, thanks to growing up in the West Valley. Go Suns. The fact that I'm bilingual has given me many opportunities, including one where a teacher in charge of an English language learner, ELL, important acronym for later, program gave me the opportunity to tutor students twice weekly, plus an additional 15 minutes per every hour worked as prep time. Okay, cool. So Mondays and Fridays I punch in 15 minutes before 2:20 during my 7th hour prep, then punch out at 3:30 when the kids left. No problem, right? Wrong. At the end of the year, I get an email saying I'm being docked 11.5 hours that were punched in before the end of the day. I was livid. They claimed I'm getting double paid, but I looked through everything I signed off on and didn't remember seeing any restrictions on when I was to punch in for these hours. We met in the office, and the district representative had me sign this document, and she showed me the contract I signed. Nowhere did it specify when I was to punch in those hours, and I brought this to both people's attention who were present, but Federal Action Plan office lady persisted. "Just sign it. You can't get double paid." Enter malicious compliance. I signed quickly, this time using my middle name, which happens to be Forget This Noise. I happen to know the person at district office, my savior, who will be reviewing this paperwork, and know that she'll either ask me what's up or to have me re-sign an obvious non-signature. Like clockwork, I get a phone call on my 7th hour prep from my savior. She asked why I signed like this and why I'm being docked. I explained my working with the 2 new students who don't speak any English all year and even teaching them both English all year. I explained that no one said anything all year and that I'd have made the adjustment to get paid those hours the entire school year. My savior says, "Wait a minute, you were on your prep time, right? And you're bilingual? Do you have a certification?" All answers were yes. My next paycheck was $3,500 more than my standard paycheck, coming out of the Federal Action Plan lady's budget for federal action plans. I was very confused at first. It appears that I can punch in during my contract hours if it's on my scheduled prep, and because I have all of my endorsements and my direct supervisor on campus doesn't, I get paid as an ELL leader on campus, quite the stipend. So what was supposed to be a $345 deduction in pay for me turned out to be 10 times greater as a deduction from their department paid directly to me. So looks like she was right all along. I can't get double paid, but looks like I can get double quintuple paid. Am I the jerk for not telling a guy what I do for work and letting him pay for my drinks the whole evening? My friend Grace invited me to a board game bar to play and have drinks with her boyfriend, and one of their friends, Nick. We went to get drinks in pairs, Grace going with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, Nick and I stayed at the table and vice versa. So Nick and I had plenty of time to talk, just the 2 of us. Nick started the night by telling me about his recent career change. He decided to quit his previous job, go to a coding boot camp, and he just got a job as a developer 1 or 2 months ago. He was very proud of himself and his new salary and told me this multiple times. He never asked me what I do for work, but talked about his new job quite a bit, occasionally saying, "Sorry, you don't understand that." During the entire evening, I never told him I have been working as a software engineer for the past 4 years because he never asked, and honestly, I found it a bit entertaining. When it came to the drinks, he invited me to every single one. "Don't worry about it. It's not a problem with my developer salary." I told him multiple times he doesn't have to pay for me, but he isn't interested. At the end of the night, when we were saying our goodbyes, he took out his phone and sent me a friend request on Facebook. My job is listed in my profile, so that was when he realized that I'm a software engineer. He asked me if that's true that I'm a software engineer, and I answered yes. He then asked me why I hadn't told him. Why did I let him believe I was a cashier like Grace used to be? I never implied that. And why did I let him pay for everything when I probably earn more than he does? I told him that he never once asked about it, and it was his fault, he assumed. He could have simply asked me about my job, but he only wanted to brag about his. But if he wants me to, I can pay him back for the drinks. He was angry and said that I made a fool out of him. I think he did, not me. But now Grace and her boyfriend are on his side too, saying that it would have cost me nothing to tell him early in the evening, and I only kept it to myself for my own entertainment. Well, I did find it entertaining, but I don't really feel like I did anything wrong. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. He wanted to brag, and he was a jerk. He deserved this lesson. Not only are you not the jerk, you're an absolute legend. Not the jerk. You didn't ask him to pay for your drinks, and you did tell him he didn't have to. He insisted. He was a jerk for assuming that you didn't have a job that would leave you comfortable, especially comfortable enough to buy your own drinks. He was bragging and showing off, only to learn that he was making a fool of himself. Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your own station. Back in college, I worked at an on-campus fast food place. Your basic burgers, fries, wraps, and small salads. My shift started at 11:25 doing wraps until 11:55 when Josh left and I manned the grill and someone else did the wraps. Now, Josh was a typical Josh, and it was his way or the highway. He'd get really mad when I'd throw more burgers on the grill or flip something while he was trying to chat up the dishwasher. I did this because he had no understanding of how much food was required to feed college kids during the small breaks between classes. Eventually, he complained enough that I was told, "Josh is on the grill until 11:55, so stop pestering him and do your station." So I did. I stopped touching the grill. The next shift, he leaves at 11:55, and I get on the grill and immediately throw down 40 frozen raw burger patties. 2 minutes later, the cashier starts yelling, "Where are the burgers?" "Sorry, I just got on the grill, and Josh only had 5 in the warmer and 3 in the window. I know we always have about 100 students between 11:55 and 12:20, and they almost all get the burger meal, but I was told not to touch the grill." The burgers finish after a few minutes, and the next batch goes on, but the grill has cooled a little, so they take even longer. The line of kids waiting for food is longer than the line ordering, and management is upset. I got chewed out for not being fast enough, and I just ask, "Do you want raw burgers or to talk to Josh?" It only took one more shift of this for them to realize that my meddling was actually what kept us afloat during the lunch rush. I'd often cook an entire grill of burgers while he was swinging and missing with the dishwasher. They eventually printed out a sheet of how many burgers and chicken, etc. needed to be prepared for certain rush times and gave Josh a very stern talking to about how to be a team player. Also, Josh sucked because he'd cook all the burgers well done, like really well done. Then they'd sit in the warmer for another 5 to 15 minutes. He didn't know how to rotate either, so you were eating hockey pucks. He ruined so much ground beef. He eventually got moved to salads and stock because he couldn't be trusted with anything that was fast-paced. Management saw how much faster everything moved when he wasn't joshing everything up. Am I the jerk for reporting an employee at my gym and getting him fired? Let me explain this because I wasn't sure that I did something wrong, but some people told me that it might have been too much, and I'm not sure now. I, 28 female, go to a gym kinda close to my house. My husband, who's 30, doesn't go with me since I go way too early for him, and there's one where he works, so he goes there. I usually wake up at 6 a.m. and get there by 6:45 a.m. to 7. I do not talk to anyone there unless I have to. Reception, maybe ask an employee for help. If I see anyone I know, which has only happened like twice in the last year that I've been going there. This only goes for context that I'm not flirting or anything with anyone there. I'm happily married and I go there to work out and leave. About a month ago, maybe a bit more, I don't know, there was a new employee who would always say good morning to me, even if he wasn't in the reception when I got there. He would just walk up to me wherever I was working and say good morning. I would say it back because, well, it's called being polite. I never engaged in a conversation with him, and I also use my wedding ring every day. Well, now's the issue. To access the gym, you need to put your finger so it can scan your fingerprint, and then your picture and info shows on the screen of the reception. Last week, I got a message from an unknown number asking how I was, etc. When I asked who it was, it said that it was this guy, and that he hoped I wouldn't get upset he took my number from the info. I said I was upset, and I'm married. He said he saw the ring but wasn't sure, so wanted to ask. Okay. I said that I am in fact married, and that's why I use a wedding ring, and he said okay and stopped texting. Since I didn't want to walk straight to the managers because he would know it was me and what I was doing, I decided to send an email to the gym explaining everything and how I felt my privacy was violated. My husband agreed completely. They sent an email back apologizing and saying they would handle it. The next day I walked to the gym and he wasn't there. I assumed he was fired since the next days he wasn't there either. We had my brother-in-law and wife and other family members around and we were talking about it, and brother-in-law said how crappy that was and I couldn't mess with someone's job like that. The guy apologized and stopped, so why did I keep going? Some of them agreed with him and others said he was the one messing with his job, not me. But now I feel kinda bad. I mean, he did stop when I said I was married. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. He absolutely should not have pulled your phone number from their records and was rightfully fired. People should be able to go to the gym without being hit on. And without the fear of having their private information used. I hate giving out any information at places because things like this freak me out. In the EU, that guy could have gotten that gym into some serious trouble. Extremely illegal what he did. I'm glad the gym did the right thing. Not the jerk. And in fact, I'd be suspicious of brother-in-law after that. Because how does he not see a problem with that? OP. He said I acted like a Karen by complaining to the manager, that in this economy, it's seriously messed up to play with someone's job like that. I mean, I would think that in this economy, someone would know not to risk their job like that. Well, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have reported the employee or not? Please let us know.
Reminds me of the time I got a Facebook message from the cashier at the store I went to that day.
And how'd that go?
We dated for 4 years.
Lucky him. 4 Top comes in at 10 to closing. Thinks it's okay since they just want something small. I remembered this recently, thought I would share. Nothing in the world is worse than a customer who comes in right before closing, sees we're about to close, and says something like, "We just want something small," as if that makes it okay. It had been slow all night. Our side work was done, silverware rolled up, and we were ready to head home. I was one of 2 servers there, the rest had left. A 4 Top comes in at 10 to closing, and we looked on horrified as they noted we closed in 10 minutes, but then justified it by saying, "We only want a few drinks and maybe an appetizer." Even the hostess just stood there, looking at them like, "Are you really going to stay?" Yup, they were. They settled into a booth, laughing and hooting it up. They had clearly already been drinking. Their server was my coworker, a woman who we called Mom. She was much older than the rest of us, and the giver of advice and hugs when anyone needed it. She had worked there for years and didn't take crap. She purposely ignored the table for 9 minutes and then approached. They started ordering food, burgers, a steak, no appetizers. Server cuts them off. "Oh, sorry, but our kitchen closed about a minute ago. We aren't serving food anymore." They all looked annoyed. "What do you mean? We just sat down." Server: "I know, but we closed at 11 p.m. as the hostess told you when you came in. It's past 11. Someone at the table: "Can we get something from the bar?" Server: "Oh, sorry, but the bar closed 2 minutes ago. We aren't serving drinks anymore." The table starts to yell at her. "Then why did the hostess seat us when she knew you were closing? This is bull." Server: "Why did you sit when you knew we were closing in 10 minutes? Their mouths dropped open at her gall. I was too shocked, watching this unfold, afraid she'd get in trouble. I thought they'd ask for the manager, but they didn't. They got up and headed towards the door while loudly complaining about the injustice they had endured. They claimed they would never come back again and we had lost their business. When they were gone, she looked at me and shrugged. She was the first person who taught me that sometimes the customer wasn't right and it was okay to call them out on it. All restaurants should have a last seating 30 minutes before close. Wish mine did. This would be so much easier on everyone to just establish an effective target to lock the doors. I think it's a symptom of our tipping culture. The boss doesn't have to pay you a reasonable hourly wage, so they don't care how much longer you will have to stay and hope for a good tip to finish the night. If you were paid a fair hourly wage, they would be howling to lock the doors on time. The customer is always right refers to how they want their food prepared. If a customer wants to ruin their steak, for example, by having it well done, that's their choice and they are fine to have it. It does not mean anything else. Anyone co-opting that phrase to mean taking mistreatment for low pay is okay is an outright jerk or just plain stupid. The end. Neighbor is increasingly upset about my yard, but I'm disabled. I've gotten a few notices from the city in the last few months about my yard, and they've all been really weird. Tiny things like a bush sticking out of the sidewalk and needs to be trimmed, and I look and cannot for the life of me find a bush that is doing that, so I just cut them all. This has happened 3 times now for things that are just not an issue. I can't even see it. Recently, I found out one of my neighbors has been reporting me and that she does this to everyone. In the last 2 months, I've not been as attentive to the yard because of my disability, an autoimmune disease. It's flared up and I've pretty much been couch-ridden. On top of that, I tore my ACL the one good week I had playing soccer, so I'm double disabled at the moment. I used to pay for a lawn service twice a week and do the rest myself, but I got laid off during lockdown and had to find a new job quick and lost a couple of roommates in my house, which docked me around $45K annually. I refinanced the house and can just barely afford it, and I'm seeking more roommates, but it's been tough to find someone in my area. But I just can't afford a lawn service right now, and my dad is old and can only come help once a month or so. Today I got this letter from the upset neighbor, and it's unsigned.
Miss OP, we are concerned neighbors that have noticed that you have let a lot of time go by without regular caring for your lawn or the mass of weeds that keeps getting higher on the side of your house. We were not pleased to see another neighbor cutting your grass. Is it too much trouble to ask for you to call a local person to cut your grass on a bi-weekly basis? Paul is a neighbor who cuts lawns in the neighborhood, and he may be available at this number. There are too many rentals that do not care for their property. You are an owner and are invested in your home. Please take care of it.
They sent it with a stamp through the mail so I wouldn't know who it was. My regular, kind neighbor was talking to this woman and heard she was going to report me again, and she and her son mowed my lawn to prevent that. I didn't even ask them to do this, but I did thank them profusely. This kind neighbor doesn't want to tell me who the upset one is. Any advice at all? I'm really tired from all of my health issues, and this is just bumming me out. Usually I can make cookies and charm an angry person, but I can't even walk right now. I don't have an HOA, and when I called the number on my city notice, they couldn't give me any city code or documents saying I have to keep my yard in any particular shape. No idea what standard I need to keep my yard to or how to get it there. It's not even that bad. I don't think it needs much past what my dad can do. They weren't pleased to see another neighbor cutting your grass? This lady can buzz off. Who cares who mows it? I got called in for emergency at the wrong hospital. Background. I had been a doctor at a very reputed hospital in my country about 3 years back, well before lockdown. I had worked there for a year before my husband and I had decided to move to another country. I had resigned a few months before the travel to take care of the visa and all of the other stuff we would need to do before moving to another country. During this time, I would still keep getting calls from the hospital to check on this or that patient, and I would politely tell them that I don't work for them anymore. I hadn't exactly worked in the ER, but had been the first one to be called in case of any of the issues with the patients that had already been admitted in the wards, till the actual attending doctor of the patient came in. Each ward had its own duty mobile phone, and that's where the calls came from. The calls had happened very frequently, and every time I would tell the nurse who had called that I didn't work there anymore. I was very polite and nice as I had really loved working there, and though I didn't anymore, seeing the calls reminded me of that time. As the time approached for us to fly, I stopped attending the calls, hoping they would eventually stop. It's been now 2 years after we moved, and we are now in a country with a completely different time zone. Though I have a new local number, I still keep the old number from my country active. I still occasionally see a missed call from the hospital displayed on my phone when I wake up. I can't receive the calls due to 1. Huge roaming costs, 2. The calls came mostly when I'm asleep, due to the time differences, and 3. The phone is almost always on silent. However, a few days back in the evening, I noticed there were 5 missed calls, all from the hospital. I had received them during the afternoon, which meant they were made when it was late midnight in my country. This alarmed me, as usually I only get 1 missed call. That too during the morning hours of my country. I immediately topped up the mobile and made a call to the hospital. I asked for the in-charge nurse of that particular ward. Since my number was still stored as the contact physician, the nurse who attended immediately called for the in-charge nurse and said, "Dr. OP is called." I think she was probably a junior nurse, as she also seemed a bit tense. As soon as the in-charge nurse was on call, I explained the situation to her. I told her that I had received several missed phone calls in an emergency hour, but didn't work there anymore. She was surprised and immediately apologized. I explained to her I had calls, not because it was an inconvenience to me, because it wasn't, but if they tried to reach out to a doctor who doesn't work there in cases of emergencies and expected them to come, it could cost the patient their life. I had never received 5 missed calls before and hoped that the patient for whom I was called in for was all right. She assured me that everything was okay and thanked me for letting her know. She apologized again and told me she would delete my number immediately. I thanked her and hung up. Somehow, this time I was sure I wouldn't receive any more calls. That kind of made me a bit sad in a weird way, but patients' lives matter more. I honestly hope they get it all sorted out and call the right doctor from now on. $127 dine-in dash. So I'm a server, and one of my tables walked out. This is going to be long, but please read. I need advice. Background. The servers are supposed to pay for walkouts when they happen where I work. I've had to pay for things in the past because I messed up, and I admit they were my fault. I've worked there for 2 years now, so I'm well aware of the rule. Story time. It's getting close to the end of the night, and I had to use the bathroom. Had to go number 2, which means I was going to be gone for a little. I say to 2 of my fellow servers, "I have to use the bathroom. Can you guys please watch table F1?" And they say okay. So I go to the bathroom and come back a little bit later. The assistant manager let me know I had a table. Another server got the table's drink order for me, so I'm just waiting as the assistant manager makes the drinks, and my general manager comes up to me and says F1 haven't been paid for. I notice the 2 people from the table are gone. Before I went to the bathroom, the table asked for their check, so I go to see if they left the money, but it was empty. Me: there's no money. GM: well, you have to pay for it. Me: I don't think I should have to pay for this because I asked 2 other servers to watch my table. GM: you signed the paper, so you have to pay. You know the rules. Me: I'm sorry, but I'm not paying for it. This wasn't my fault. I walk away so I can continue to take care of my other table. Then maybe 15 minutes later, I pull my assistant manager to the side. Me: look, I follow the rules. You guys, my managers, have always said if you step out, let someone know so they can watch your table, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm not paying for it. Assistant manager: well, that's not fair to everyone else, and you signed the paper. Me: GM said that too, and I don't know what paper you're talking about. Assistant manager: the paper that says you have to pay for walkouts regardless of the reason. It was passed out a while ago. Me: I never signed that because I was never given one. Well, it has to be paid for. It was your table at the end of the day. It's your responsibility. Me: I was having a human bodily function. How can I be held responsible when I let others know? Well, you didn't tell me, but we can't put you on the schedule until it's paid for. Me: well, this might be the last time we work together because I'm not paying for it. In the end, my GM gave me a speech about how I've been working there for 2 years and that I'm a good employee and I should get more trustworthy people to watch my tables. Secretly, he took some of the money off the order and told me not to tell the other servers, but I still have to pay $100 overtime like a payment plan. I just want to know if I was in the wrong for not wanting to pay it. Obviously, the other 2 servers could have been held accountable as well, but I didn't want to have my coworkers hate me. At this point, I'm just going to pay it off and work until I find a new job, because this place is far from perfect. But this whole thing has completely upset me.
Huge shout out to Cute Nerd who left us a review on iTunes. So excited, so happy to see you on Apple Podcasts. Makes my morning drive so much better now. And the primes forever. Happiness. Love listening to this while working. It makes the day go by faster.
Thank you so much for leaving us the reviews on iTunes. It really helps out the show. And we hope you continue to enjoy the Mr. Redder podcast, available on Spotify and iTunes.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.